Everyone believes that Russia's vast military might makes it unstoppable. They believe tanks, missiles, and decades of training guarantee battlefield dominance. They believe NATO is the only real check to Russian ambitions. But the war in Ukraine proves a different reality. It proves that even the largest armies can struggle when logistics fail. Morale collapses, and leadership is exposed. It proves that modern warfare is not simply about numbers, but about systems, strategy, and resilience. And this changes everything. From the earliest days of the conflict, analysts assumed that Russia's military superiority would dictate the pace and outcome. Massive artillery barrages, precision airstrikes, and the sheer size of ground forces seemed to overwhelm Ukrainian defenses. Yet, on every front, Russia encountered fierce resistance, unexpected setbacks, and operational failures that the world is only beginning to understand. The common narrative has been challenged. Strength on paper does not equal effectiveness in practice. As the war unfolded, Ukraine's forces demonstrated adaptability, innovation, and a capacity to exploit weaknesses that many observers thought impossible against such a formidable opponent. Every destroyed tank, every downed aircraft, every disrupted supply line exposed deeper vulnerabilities in Russian planning. What appeared to be a simple numerical advantage revealed cracks in logistics, training, and coordination. Analysts now agree that the most significant threats to Russia's military are not only external, they are internal. Outdated equipment, poorly trained personnel, and fractured command structures. Morale, discipline, and the efficiency of support systems are the new determinants of battlefield outcomes. Ukraine's unconventional strategies, including small unit tactics, drone warfare, and targeted attacks on logistical nodes, have forced Russia to fight in ways it never anticipated. These operations, often low-cost yet high-impact, have gradually eroded Russian confidence and strained its operational tempo. Observers note a recurring pattern. Every Russian gain is met with countermeasures that slow momentum. Every logistical effort is countered with precise strikes or disruption. Every tactical success is diminished by systemic inefficiencies within the Russian army itself. This reality challenges decades of assumptions about military power. It suggests that technological sophistication and numerical strength are insufficient without adaptability, intelligence, and morale. The war proves that the traditional models of warfare no longer apply. Commanders can no longer rely solely on pre-existing doctrine. Soldiers cannot depend on sheer numbers to ensure security or victory. Even a superpower must contend with the limits imposed by logistics, morale, and operational planning. Russia's initial expectation of rapid victory has been replaced by prolonged attrition. The speed and decisiveness once assumed are now replaced by frustration, delay, and inefficiency. Analysts have documented repeated miscalculations, underestimating drone strikes, overestimating supply line security, and failing to anticipate asymmetric tactics employed by Ukraine. For the first time, the world is witnessing that large conventional forces are not invincible. Ukraine's success demonstrates that targeted, intelligent strategies can counteract overwhelming numerical advantage. And this changes everything. Historical and strategic background, next 1,000 words. To understand the full scope, one must analyze the strategic assumptions underpinning Russian military planning. For decades, Russia invested heavily in armored divisions, missile systems, and advanced aviation. The doctrine emphasized rapid breakthroughs, overwhelming firepower, and centralized command structures. This approach, while theoretically sound, relied heavily on flawless execution. Any disruption in logistics or unexpected tactical resistance could stall momentum, a vulnerability Ukraine has exploited. Historically, Russian armies have faced similar challenges. From Afghanistan to Chechnya, large-scale operations often struggled with extended supply lines, poor morale, and local resistance. Yet, these lessons were not fully integrated into the current military strategy, creating gaps that Ukraine could exploit. Ukraine, aware of its limitations in manpower and resources, prioritized precision, intelligence, and tactical innovation. Small unit mobility, drone reconnaissance, and targeted artillery strikes became force multipliers. These strategies transformed the battlefield into a contest of ingenuity, not just firepower. Russia's traditional reliance on massed forces and predictable tactics made it vulnerable to such adaptations. Supply chains, often overlooked in public discourse, became the critical battlefield. Fuel shortages, delayed ammunition, and maintenance backlogs slowed Russian operations. Even when frontline forces were well equipped, the broader system could not sustain the tempo required for victory. The contrast is stark. Ukraine's smaller, Agile forces versus Russia's large, cumbersome army. Victory is increasingly determined not by size, but by efficiency, adaptability, and operational intelligence. As of today, Russian forces continue to hold ground, but momentum has slowed. Operations that were expected to succeed in days are extending into weeks and months. Ukrainian defenses exploit every opportunity, forcing Russia to commit resources repeatedly for minimal gains. Drone attacks, electronic warfare, and intelligence operations disrupt coordination. Ukrainian forces do not always seek to destroy outright. Sometimes the goal is delay, distraction, and degradation. Logistical failures are evident. Forward units often lack resupply, creating vulnerabilities. Maintenance crews struggle to keep older equipment operational, exposing the army to tactical risk. Russian command structures are under stress. Decision-making is slowed, coordination falters, and frontline leaders are forced to improvise without clear guidance. In some cases, units have been stranded or mismanaged due to communication breakdowns. Economically, sustaining prolonged operations strains Moscow. Precision weapons, ammunition, and fuel are not unlimited. Sanctions and the high operational tempo increase costs exponentially. Meanwhile, Ukraine's strategy maximizes asymmetric advantages. Drone swarms, long-range artillery, and targeted sabotage create disproportionate impact. Small units, guided by superior intelligence, force Russian forces to disperse or overcommit resources. The cumulative effect is exhaustion. Russia retains strength on paper, but the operational reality is deteriorating. Internal inefficiencies, morale issues, and logistical constraints are creating an erosion of combat effectiveness. The implications extend beyond Ukraine. If Russia cannot modernize its operational approach, future engagements, even with smaller adversaries, could be similarly constrained. Allies and adversaries alike monitor these developments. The success of small, adaptive forces challenges traditional military assumptions worldwide. Lessons emerge for modern warfare. Efficiency can outweigh size. Technology must integrate with logistics. Morale and leadership are critical. Asymmetric tactics can redefine outcomes. And for Russia, the internal awareness of these vulnerabilities may alter future strategic calculations. Everyone believes that Russia can simply throw more troops and equipment at any battlefield to regain control. They believe sheer force is enough to correct mistakes and overwhelm opposition. They believe that the size and legacy of the Russian military guarantees success, but the war proves that even overwhelming strength cannot fix systemic flaws. It proves that leadership miscalculations, morale collapse, and economic strain can erode military power from within. And this changes everything. In the first part, we analyze the battlefield, logistics failures, drone attacks, and Ukraine's agile strategy. Now we shift focus inward, the internal pressures that are quietly shaping Russia's war effort and may dictate its ultimate fate. Internal pressure and military command, 800 words. Russia's military faces challenges that extend far beyond Ukrainian resistance. Command inefficiencies have become increasingly apparent. Reports from the front lines indicate that units are receiving contradictory orders, sometimes multiple times in a single day. Communication failures and delayed intelligence compromise operational planning, forcing officers to make split-second decisions without adequate support. Morale is declining. Soldiers report long deployments without sufficient rest, inconsistent pay, and inadequate medical support. The perception of corruption within supply chains and leadership further undermines confidence. In many cases, experienced officers are being replaced with politically loyal, yet less competent commanders, eroding both expertise and respect. The effect on combat readiness is severe. Even elite units suffer from fatigue and disorganization, reducing the effectiveness of precision strikes and coordinated maneuvers. Ukraine exploits these weaknesses by targeting supply lines or disrupting command centers and employing rapid redeployment tactics that stretch Russian forces thin. Additionally, Russia's reliance on conscripted forces has become a liability. Many conscripts lack training, combat experience, and motivation, making them less effective in modern warfare. Attrition rates rise, and replacements require time-consuming training, further delaying operations. War is not just fought on the battlefield, it is fought through resources. Russia's prolonged campaign is straining its economy and military-industrial complex. Sanctions and international pressure have limited access to critical components for advanced weapons systems. Production bottlenecks reduce the availability of artillery shells, missiles, and precision munitions. Fuel shortages and maintenance issues delay operations. and reduce the mobility of mechanized units. The cost of sustaining an extended conflict also affects morale. Soldiers witness shortages, delayed pay, and poorly maintained equipment, which amplifies uncertainty and fear. Civilian perception of the war effort influences political decisions at the top, pressuring leadership to achieve quick results despite operational limitations. Ukraine's strategy of targeting, logistics, and supply chains maximizes this pressure. Small, precise attacks create outsized disruption, forcing Russia to spend additional resources defending rear areas instead of reinforcing offensive operations. The economic strain also affects strategic planning. Each decision must consider not just military feasibility, but also cost, sustainability, and political acceptability. This limits flexibility and forces compromises that further undermine effectiveness. Leadership decisions under stress have consequences that ripple through the entire military. Failures in strategy or execution reduce trust in commanders, create friction between civilian and military leadership, and can provoke internal dissent. Reports indicate that political oversight of military operations is increasing, sometimes to the detriment of tactical decision-making. Pressure to achieve symbolic victories may prompt risky offensives that fail, further eroding credibility. Internationally, Russia's image as a military superpower suffers. Adversaries learn from Russian mistakes, adapt countermeasures, and exploit vulnerabilities. Allies may hesitate to provide support, while neutral parties observe weakness, recalibrating their own strategic calculations. The war also exposes the limitations of Russia's doctrine. Centralized control, reliance on massed formations, and outdated equipment cannot meet the demands of modern hybrid warfare. The conflict is a real-time case study in how rigid strategy fails against dynamic, asymmetric opponents. Ukraine continues to innovate on the battlefield. Small unit tactics, drones, loitering munitions, and cyber operations allow it to punch above its weight. Each operational success by Ukraine intensifies Russian internal pressure. Commanders must respond to rapidly evolving threats while managing overstretched logistics, morale issues, and limited intelligence. The cumulative effect is a cycle of reactionary moves rather than proactive strategy. Russia rarely dictates the tempo. It reacts to Ukrainian initiatives, often at a disadvantage. Intelligence sharing, international support, and adaptive training further strengthen Ukraine's position. Even if Russia replenishes manpower or equipment, systemic inefficiencies make sustained success increasingly unlikely. Several scenarios emerge for Russia's military campaign. 1. Prolonged